He was called the weakest soldier alive, yet he carried their wounded alien queen. 100 miles, Private Jake Morrison had always been the joke of Alpha Company. The other soldiers called him weak because he could not lift heavy weapons like them. Was small and quiet while they were big and loud. When they ran 10 miles, he fell behind. When they did push-ups, he could barely do 20. But Jake never quit, even when everyone laughed at him. The war against the Zephyrian Empire had been going on for 3 years. Earth forces were losing badly. The aliens had better weapons and faster ships. Humans were dying every day, and hope was running out. Captain Lisa Brooks led their unit deep into enemy space on a desperate mission to capture intel. From a Zephyrian command post, everything went wrong from the start. Their ship crash landed on the planet Kepler 7. The team of 12 soldiers became scattered across the hostile jungle. Jake found himself alone with a broken radio and limited supplies. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Strange creatures howled in the distance, making his skin crawl. He walked for hours through the alien forest, trying to find his team. The trees were purple and twisted, reaching up like claws. The ground was soft and made wet sounds under his boots. Jake heard fighting somewhere ahead. Gunfire echoed through the trees, followed by alien screams. Then everything went silent. When Jake reached the clearing, he found bodies everywhere. His teammates were dead, their weapons were destroyed, and their gear was scattered. Human and alien blood mixed together in the dirt. Jake felt sick, but he forced himself to keep looking for survivors. He had to find someone, anyone who was still alive behind a fallen tree. Jake discovered something that changed everything. A female alien lay bleeding in the mud. She was different from the Zephyrian soldiers he had seen before. Her skin was silver instead of gray, and she wore elegant robes instead of battle armor. Strange symbols covered her clothing, and a golden crown sat crooked on her head. This was no ordinary enemy soldier. Jake realized he had found their queen. She was badly wounded with deep cuts across her arms and a terrible injury to her leg. Her breathing was shallow and her silver eyes were filled with pain. When she saw Jake, she tried to speak but only made soft sounds. Jake should have left her there, or ended her suffering quickly. That would have been the smart thing to do. She was the enemy after all. Her people had killed millions of humans, including his own brother. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the way she looked at him without fear or hatred. Maybe it was because she reminded him of his sister Amy back on Earth. The alien queen was dying, and Jake was the only one who could save her. He had basic medical training from the army, so he cleaned her wounds and wrapped them with torn fabric from his uniform. She watched him work with curious eyes, as if she could not believe a human was helping her. When he finished, she touched his hand gently and whispered something in her own language. Jake knew he had to get her to safety, but where could they go? The nearest human outpost was over 100 miles away. Through dangerous terrain filled with wild animals and enemy patrols, his radio was broken and no rescue was coming. The queen could not walk with her injured leg, so Jake would have to carry her the entire way. Other soldiers would have called him crazy. They would have said he was too weak for such a mission. But Jake had made his choice. He carefully lifted the alien queen onto his back using his pack straps to secure her. She was lighter than he expected, but still heavy enough to make his muscles ache. The long journey ahead would test every limit of his endurance. They traveled through the night while Jake struggled with each step. The queen held onto him tightly and sometimes made small sounds when the pain got worse. Jake talked to her even though she could not understand his words. He told her about Earth and his family and why he joined the army. His voice seemed to calm her during the worst moments. On the second day, they encountered a pack of razor wolves. The local predators were huge with metal-like teeth and glowing red eyes. They surrounded Jake and the queen looking for an easy meal. Jake only had his sidearm with limited ammunition, but he stood his ground. The wolves attacked, and Jake fought them off one by one, using every bullet he had. The queen watched in amazement as the small human soldier protected her with his life. By the third day, Jake was exhausted beyond belief. His legs felt like they were on fire and his back screamed with pain. But he kept, walking step after step, mile after mile. The alien queen grew stronger and started helping him navigate using hand signals to show which paths were safer. She even shared her emergency food supplies with him, showing trust that surprised them both. The fourth night, enemy scouts found their trail. Jake hid with the Queen in a cave, while Zephyrian soldiers searched nearby. They came so close that Jake could hear their breathing. The Queen stayed perfectly still, even though Jake knew her wounds were causing terrible pain. One sound would have given them away, but she remained silent until the danger passed. The final day was the hardest. Jake could barely stand, but the human outpost was just ahead. The Queen pointed to smoke rising from the valley below, and Jake felt hope for the first time in days, but his strength was almost gone. His vision was blurry and his hands were shaking from exhaustion. He stumbled and fell several times, but always got back up. When they finally reached the outpost, the human guards could not believe what they saw. The weakest soldier in the army had carried an alien queen 100 miles through enemy territory. Jake collapsed at the gate with the Queen still on his back. Both of them were more dead than alive, but they had made it. The Queen recovered in the human medical bay, and Jake spent 3 days sleeping. Jake woke up to find her sitting beside his bed. She had learned some English words and thanked him over and over. Her rescue led to the first peace talks between humans and Zephyrians. The war that had seemed hopeless suddenly had a chance to end. Colonel Amy Rodriguez, the base commander, called Jake a hero, but he did not feel like one. He had simply done what felt right. The other soldiers who used to mock him now looked at him with respect. They realized that real strength was not about lifting heavy things or running fast. It was about having the courage to do what was right, even when it seemed impossible. The alien queen, whose name was Lyrily, became an ambassador for peace between their peoples. She never forgot the small human soldier who saved her life. Jake Morrison, the man they called the weakest soldier alive, had carried not just a wounded enemy, but the hope for peace itself across 100 miles of hostile ground. Sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected places.